Okay, so here what I've given is after Companies Act has been Act has been passed by Parliament. So next it has to be implemented. So who will implement it? SEBI is the organization who regulates the activities of listed companies, that you know. So they have to implement it in their rule book. So that's what this is about, the new corporate governance norm that SEBI has included in there has been introduced. So as I say, SEBI issued new regulation on corporate governance, and the idea is to tighten the norm of corporate governance. Then what is corporate governance? What do you understand? It is given here, but just what is corporate? What do you understand by corporate governance? Do you understand what is written here? What do you mean by governance? Excuse me? What is governance?
Ruled by government?
Not ruled by government. Implementation, no. It's it's activity done by government. How to what do you call? See that law and order is maintained, and it runs in a systematic manner. This is what governance comes under. Okay, and they have to manage different societies, different activities together. Like for example, good governance in the definition for good governance, not definition. The idea behind good governance given by World Bank is that it should be a combination of market, government, and civil society. So this kind of different wings should be brought together, should be coordinated together to run to see that law and order runs properly. So where this law and order comes, our constitutional principles, everything runs in a systematic manner. So that's the basic idea of governance. So in corporate governance also, that's the same thing that is done. Corporates have rules, and they have their way of running it. So in corporate governance, it is what is checked is the company runs on the basis of the rules and regulations that it has been put into, that the company puts, and also the company is asked to put. Okay, a company will be affected by two kinds of law. One, the company will have their own law for dealing with each issue. This is how we will be dealing with such an issue, and this is how you will be dealing with the other issue. Moreover, there will be other rules which will be put by the government, that a company should be following all these rules. So they have to adjust their rules along with the company, the government rule, the outside rule that's coming. You understand what I mean? I think you are all confused. Okay. Yeah. I mean, outside means not just government. All the outside agencies will put. They will have their own items. They will have a major goal will be there. To set that goal, they will ask all the companies to, this is the way you have to go. So even companies has to follow that one. Two kind of what in a capitalist society, what is meant is free, market is free. So they have more liberty to do whatever they want. But in our society, it is more restricted because there is more role by government. So companies have more rules to follow. So those things will come under corporate governance. Okay, corporate governance, they will set a rule, and it is seen that whether they follow the rules and regulations properly.
What about unlisted companies?
Excuse me?
Unlisted companies.
Look, there are different kind of regulations. For listed companies, SEBI's rules and regulations they have to follow. Unlisted companies, they will have their own rules and regulations. But I am taking in a very general sense. I don't know the exact rules and regulations. So you have to talk about. Yeah, of course. This is about SEBI's role in doing that. That's all.
Not just related.
No. So it's about promoting corporate fairness, transparency, accountability. So these are the basic principles they have to follow in their rules. And how corporate is governed, that's given in corporate governance. Then another thing you have to understand is about the stakeholder and shareholder consent. What do you mean by shareholder consent? So there is initially it was like it was considered that a company is responsible only to their shareholders. Shareholders will be the investors and all those people. So it was considered that company's activity is only related to shareholders, and they have to make money only for them, and they don't have to bother about it. That was earlier the old idea that was prevailing. But now it has changed. Now there is the new concept is like this is stakeholders concept. That is, they have this. The company is not just responsible to their shareholders, but to the community and the environment in which they are working. So that's how this stakeholder concept comes. even if you look in Gandhi's principle, what he told about entrepreneurs is that entrepreneurs should make money for the society, not for themselves. That's the idea. That's how Gandhi justified his support for entrepreneurs. And this is one way. So that is what even I don't know whether that is a basic idea which went into stakeholder concept. But the stakeholder concept means the company is responsible not just to the shareholder but also to their external environment and also their community. So they have to do. So they should be responsible to whatever activities that they are doing. For example, a company can't pollute. It doesn't have the authority to pollute any water resource or any natural resources because it affects the community. So it should act responsibly and see that it doesn't affect the outside agencies. I mean doesn't affect even the indirect stakeholders who gets affected by their activities. So what are the objective of corporate governance? Why corporate governance? What are the objectives of corporate governance? It is it will see that see that there is a proper disclosure and transparency in corporate structure, so that there will be we can understand how they are working, how the money is flowing inside the system, and what all activities they are doing. It should be transparent. Another thing, fixing accountability, bringing the interest of investors and managers. That is, a lot of money has been put in a particular company by the investors. So they have the right to know that what is done with that money. So for that one, there should be a responsibility. There should be an accountability over if the company fails or if the company is running in loss. Someone is accountable because I am putting money. A person is using that one for running a business. So he is accountable to see that the money is utilized properly. He is accountable to show that the money is utilized properly and make a profit. So by this accountability, by fixing accountability, there will be a better the interest of investors and managers. We can have a better prevent a conflict of interest between investors and managers. It is, investors will know where the money is being spent and how the money is being used and how they are making business. So that's and if it fails, they have someone to make put responsibility for that one, and they can punish them or incentivize them. Okay, and fixing the corporate responsibility towards various stakeholders. It's about the stakeholder concept, how the corporate governance should be in such a manner that it also take care the needs of the society or the needs of the external agents. I just showed you who are the major stakeholders there. Like directors, employees, suppliers, customers, lenders, regulation, government, environment, and the community. So corporate will be as a responsibility to see that even their needs have been satisfied and build long-term trust among corporate and investors. So if a company is transparent, if a company is more accountable, if they are more responsible, then there will be more trust by the investors on that company. Daily we read in newspaper that because of lack of investor trust, investment is not coming to our country. Because of corruption, investment is not coming to our country. So to improve that trust, that's the basic idea. To rationalize the management and risk monitoring, management and risk monitoring. For example, risk monitoring in the sense we have investors are putting money to the company, so they do business with that, but that doesn't mean that they can take heavy risk and can face big loss because of that. For example, what happened in 2008 meltdown, that's what happened. They had money, they used to take risks which they were not supposed to take. They created toxic assets. So that's what happened in US. So in order to prevent those kind of activities, those kind of risky activities, to monitor those kind of risky activities, business always involves risk, of course, but still it should not go to a certain extent that it may create heavy loss. So in order to prevent that, the corporate governance should see that the risk they are taking and the management structure, everything is proper. And the efficient decision making, they should promote even the decision maker should have a feel that yeah, I am responsible, I am accountable for what I am doing, so that will bring a better decision making. Integrity and probity in the financial report. You know what are Satyam scam, the big financial fraud they used to make. You know, they used to show that the company is running in big profit, but it was all false. So they changed the auditing system. They changed the financial reports and all. They did a lot of frauds inside. So to prevent that, they will have a specific structure of how to give the financial report, how to monitor the financial report, who to monitor the financial report. All these things will be structured through the laws inside each and every corporate office. The basic idea from this one is that to maintain overall market confidence, to build up market confidence and to avoid corporate frauds and bring efficiency of capital allocation. That best utilization is done of capital, whatever capital is allocated. Okay. And these are all very, thing is that why I have put in this slide format is that you have to just take these words, you have to put these words like transparency, accountability, responsibility on them, and this one, stakeholders' interest, risk monitoring. These are the words that they look even during mains exam. In your answer, these words should come. These keywords, these are called keywords. Even in their key, they will have those words. These words should come. The features of what do you mean by like features of a good corporate governance is that participatory, consent oriented, accountable. Same stuff that I told. Transparency, responsive, effective and efficient, equitable and inclusive. These are the same kind of things that we also write for governance for our public governance also. And rule of law. And OECD countries, you know what is OECD countries? Ocean Organization for Economic and Cooperation. Yeah, a group of developed countries. They have they have set of codes. It's the same thing that you have read. Like to protect the rights of shareholders. To protect the right of shareholders, equitable treatment of shareholder, role of stakeholders in corporate governance, then disclosure and transparency, responsibility of the board. So these things are coming under the so-called code of best interest, code of best practices. So this is something OECD group of countries have decided that in their countries all the corporates will follow this particular code. Okay, so this is just an example. You can just say that better things are happening over there because better companies are running in a better manner because of code of best practice and all this stuff. And clause 49. So the clause 49 is it's actually the governance principle of the SEBI, and it is applicable to all the listed companies, that is the stock exchange companies and stock exchanges. So this is where they have put the corporate governance norms inside this one, the clause 49. So if you see somewhere the clause 49, just don't get surprised. What is this? This is the basic thing. So it has two provisions. Mandatory provision is there and non-mandatory provision is there. So mandatory provisions include how to form the board, board of directors. What should be the composition? How many members should be there? What should be the structure? Who all should be there in their board? What all procedure is they have to follow? Like number of meetings, number of independent directors, and all those things will be given in mandatory provision. Okay, and then the audit committee, that the composition of audit committee, what is the role of audit committee, how many members will be there, all these things will be given in mandatory provision. The third one is provision relating to subsidiary companies. If a company has some other subsidiary company, their relation with that one, how the fund is flowing and all those stuff. And disclosure to audit committee, board and the shareholders, how they are disclosing it, the procedure of disclosure. That one also they have to specify. And CEO and CFO certification, that they should certify whatever reports have been submitted, the financial report, their certification should be required. There is some procedure for that one. So the quarterly report, how the quarterly report should be how its structure should be, the annual compliance certificate, and all these things. All this stuff is are coming under mandatory provision. That is, a company has to do all these things. Mandatorily has to show that what are their modus operandi for these things. That's the basic idea. Then they have a non-mandatory provision like a remuneration committee. If they want, they can set up remuneration committee to check the remuneration of a CEO or to have to see that how their appraisal take place and all those things. Then about training of board members, how to do the training, and a peer evaluation of board members. Like among their board members itself, they can have a peer evaluation to see that, and they can decide to. Based on that one, they can decide of incentivizing or punishing any of the board members. So they can have a structure for that. So the fourth one is whistleblower policy. So what happened in 2014 norm is that instead of making whistleblower policy as a non-mandatory provision, they made it into a mandatory provision. So that is one of the new amendment here. That they have made it in 2014. They made whistleblower policy as a mandatory provision. So what does it mean? What does it mean? What do you mean by whistleblower policy? Yeah.
Person who is a peer can express this, what's going on wrong there.
And the thing is that the protection for that one. That is that's what whistleblower policies do. How to protect a person who is coming out with truth. How to protect his life and all those things. You might have seen many movies in which they do it. Okay. So so this is a very important provision. Whistleblowers policy in 2014. Okay. Now, this and all is social. Why corporate governance? Why this new norm? Why you want all these new changes? All these new changes. So, basic thing is that to align the provision of the listing agreement with the provision of that's one thing. Companies Act 2013 has been passed. So, you have to align your rules regulation based on that act because that is a running act now. To provide additional requirement to strengthen corporate governance framework for the listed companies. And crisis of confidence. Actually, you might have read about lot of issues like 2G spectrum case. But then what else is there? In which companies have been involved? What are the major scams? Huh? So? Colgate is there. Then? No? Come on, look. Everyone has been criticizing Congress government for scams and now you are not able to. Huh? 2G, sorry. 2G is the famous one. Others. Okay, others is different construction company. Then? Which major companies are involved? CWB. Okay. For example, lot of small like in Tamil Nadu there was one in Kerala there was one big scam, solar scam. Do you know that one? What? Yeah, that's another one. EMU, what is that one actually? Okay, I don't know about the structure of EMU scam and all that stuff. Solar scam is a typical corporate scam kind of thing. Then in chit fund scam was what was the name? Sharda. So in order to prevent big fraud, even that to prevent that one requires more reforms in our Companies Act and all stuff. But this is majorly for listed companies. And also there was an issues like today's newspaper, today's Business Line of Times of India. I was reading about SKS. You know about what is SKS? 2 years back. Anyone from Andhra? No one is there. You know about microfinance frauds that used to take place some 5 years back, 2007, 8 I think. Not 10, 11. Okay, so actually SKS was a microfinance company which became listed. A microfinance company means a company, they work with poor people. To become listed means that's the kind of money they are making. That's one thing. And to get big investors to invest on them means that is the power of their company. You have to feel that one. You just read about SKS. Actually, 2011 in Hindu, one full page was there for this scam, to show the scam of all these microfinance institutions. So just try to go through this microfinance frauds that used to take place. So today's news was the guy was doing Akula something. He is selling his 12% of share in that company. So he is getting out. So he was considered to be the Mohammed Yunus of India. Okay, but he was doing a big fraud behind that. So to protect, to bring, so those kind of, if that brings a crisis confidence, no one will do business with people. But now microfinance means it's a bad name because of these kind of frauds. And to make corporate governance rule tough and punishing firms. Okay. So, new norms as per amended clause 49, okay, based on the recommendation of Adi Godrej to committee 2012. Yeah, you don't have to make notes and all, because anyway I am giving this presentation, you can take it with you. Just if you want some important points, just note it down, that's it. So, major objective is that new corporate governance code has to be set to improve the transparency and disclosure standards of listed company. Okay, so you understand what is transparency and disclosure standards. You know, this much things should be disclosed. And for example, in RTA there is a disclosure clause, section 4 and section 8. What is section 4? What is section 4 in RTA? Maximum disclosure. That is the things that is coming under that one. You have to disclose everything. You have to give. That's why you might have seen about big electronic boards that is coming in front of government offices and all, showing all the what all scholarships are there. Even in university, you don't have it here. For example, in Kerala University, you have a big electronic board. They will put all the scholarship that is available, all the admission fees that is available. They always display it. In front of almost all the government office, there will be the board sensor. Those institutions, there are institutions and there are provisions in that institution which should be fully disclosed. Okay, so that is the basic idea. That is section 4. What is section 8? Section 8. Just opposite of that one. No disclosure. For example, recently CBI was put into none of the CBI cases should be asked in RTI. I think 2 years back it happened. So that is section. So that same way, new corporate governance code, it shows it tells you how much you have to disclose, what are things you have to disclose, and so that improves transparency. And aim to protect small investors as well as to reduce the power held by so-called promoters. What do you mean by promoters? Okay, promoters actually, that's our pure kind of a technical term. Promoters means, you know, if for starting a company, there will be a person who will be mobilizing fund and all those stuff. He may be not directly owning any share or big the company itself, but he may be a big influence in promoting, in building up that company. So then he becomes a promoter. So they will, their power, even though they won't be having even they will be having very less shareholding power. They'll be highly powerful in that company. So in order to prevent such activities, this new norms are provision for that. Then require listed companies to expand the role of their audit committee, expansion of audit committee. What they have to do? Seek shareholder approval for all material related related party transaction is another very technical term. Better, you know, I can explain it, but I don't think you will understand it. But even because it's very complicated stuff, so just check it in website once more. Just check it in Google once. Basic idea is that, you know, what all related party transaction means, you know, what all kind of transaction that is said. Look, you are putting money in a company. This is run by the big directors, managers, and all those stuff. So how they use their how they use the money. So they will be using some portion of the money for the personal use or something like that. So those transactions, which is allowed, which is legal stuff, but still, but those things should be accounted. You know, it should not be frivolous. So prevent those things. There should be a proper auditing of the related party transaction. What all kind of that kind of transaction is happening. So just if you didn't understand this term means, Just check it in Google once again, okay? Because in Investopedia is a good website for getting a definition for these kind of terms, okay? And adopt a whistleblower policy, okay? Rules related to the presence of independent directors on their board. How many independent directors are, or what do you mean by independent director is another term, like a person who may not be a shareholder, but he will ask for sitting fee. He is coming there to give his experience. I mean, to give guidance and give, to provide suggestions and all those stuff. So he will be asking only the sitting fee for each board meeting. So main provision that is coming under it is norms on independent director. You know what is independent director? Conduct a performance evaluation of all directors, how they are performing and all those things. Independent director will be required to hold separate meeting. Okay. And 2/3 member of the audit committee and the chairman shall be independent. Okay, these are the new provision that is being given in the new norms. The control of tenure of the independent director. Actually, that is, I think there he has been given only 5 years tenure. One second. He has given only 7 years tenure, and the whole-time director has been given. He can be whole-time director only in 3 more companies. Okay. If he is independent director in one company, he get 7 years. 1 second. Okay, oh, sorry. It's like he can be independent director of 7 companies. Okay, and he can be whole-time director only for 3 companies. So there is number restriction is there. Okay, so that's a no. Then they have to hold separate meeting. Earlier these things were not there, so they are asked to do. Okay. Then control of tenure of independent directors. I think that is 5 years something. Just check it. Okay, I am confused about that one. Just check it. The tenure of independent director is 5 years. And then companies will be now required to disseminate independent directors resignation letter. If someone resigns, means that resignation letter should be given to stock exchange and on company should be put in company website. So the kind of maybe some kind of fraud had been taking place before in these cases. So in order to change that one, they have brought some new norms. Then about risk management committee, I told you why they need risk management, some norms for risk management committee, and what do you mean by risk management? I think new norms on related party transaction, same enhancement of transparency in all material dealings by company promoters and to ensure that business decisions are not against the interest of small and minority shareholders. So I think this little bit explains what is related party transaction. To enhance the material dealing. Material dealings means the kind of transaction that has been taking place between the big promoters or managers or the executives, and either it can be between. It can be between share or the transaction between shareholder and corporation. That's another example that will be written here. It can be between the promoter and the shareholder. So shareholder has the right to know how much money has been used by the executive for coming under this relative party transaction. Okay. So just check that term first, then you will understand it better. Then prior audit committee approval is now mandatory for all material RPTs related to this one. Need shareholder approval for even if shareholder approval is required for this one RPT transaction from now on, and will involve transaction of key management personnel. What all the transaction done by key management personnel, that also will be included in this one. What the basic idea is, this in RPT they checks the transaction that has been happening between by the executives, by management personnel or the promoters, what they use the money they use for some personal purpose, for with their relatives or for some personal needs. Okay, there is a limit for that one, which will be part of the salary or some incentive. Okay,
How would that affect business decisions?
now this investors' money. It's investors' money, no,
It would affect business, but not business decisions, right?
not decisions. I'm saying.
Right. It says like to ensure that business decisions are not against the interest of small and minorities.
That is one case. Ensure the business decision. That is one case. RPT is another case. Look, new norms related to this one, changes in rules. RPT rules is bringing more transparency and all those stuff. Along with what second case is that it ensures that it doesn't affect. Look, business are not against the interest of small and minority shareholder, because some for example in Sahara case what happened is there were a lot of the people who are affected are all small and minority shareholders, because they are people who what usually how they do the fraud is they make people to buy shares at a very small price. After that they say that the company has failed, so they can't give anything back. So they are the one who is going to lose. But there is small money, so everyone just let it go. But thing is that
Not about
no, that is not RPT. No, I'm not saying that. This is the kind of fraud that is taking place. So in order to prevent those things, these things are taken into consideration. Look, exact thing if you were to say RPT means, then you have to find what is RPT exactly, how it works in company, then how the frauds take place. That's all you have to drill it out. Thing is that we don't require that one. So basic idea is it's a kind of financial kind of fraud that is taking place. So just remember that even that term is not very important. What is important is these kind of activities. The financial frauds, all these things, how it is done. Like in an audit committee is required, approval of shareholders are required. Then we will involve the key management's professional personals, their what you call their expense and all those, how it affects and how it is controlled, how it is monitored. Those things are required. Okay. In this key terms, promoters, RPT, these things, if possible, you can remember. Otherwise, it's fine. These things are not required, much required in our answers. Okay, because most of them are technical stuff. And new norms, some top level remuneration that I told you, CEO salary, CFO salary, to check that one. The mandatory constitution of a nomination and remuneration committee with an independent chairman. Enhanced disclosure norms on remuneration. This is another quantitative thing that is coming, because in the other stuff that we saw, clause 49, mandatory and non-mandatory stuff is there. In that one, remuneration committee comes under non-mandatory. But in this norm, they have made it mandatory. This remuneration committee is mandatory. Okay, so that is another. So we don't know whether they have shifted the whole thing to mandatory thing, but in norms they have given it like this. So and the audit committee and whistleblower mechanism. Explain the role of audit committee. Compulsory whistleblower mechanism has to be set up. Okay. Next is for sporting fraud bill and Mukul Mudgal report. So you know what happened that last year's IPL fixing case and all those things. The key recommendation actually since last time there was a question on cricket. Do you know what was IPL? I mean not IPL, it was based on a technical thing in cricket. You know what was the main question? No? No one have checked the mains question paper. Oh, are you sleeping? I know that I'm a little boring, but still, you have to bear me. Oh, what was the question? You remember? One is silicon coating, and what is the other mechanism name? To hear the sound and tipping sound. There's one mechanism, or some mechanism is there for that. I don't remember the exact term. Silicon coating, what is the importance of silicon coating in bat? So they can ask questions like this. People who follow cricket can easily answer. I am not a person who follow cricket, but I could guess the answer. Thing is that you out of the 20 from last time onwards they have stopped giving this one. I mean options, question options. It's compulsory to write all the questions. So if you don't know something means you have to make answers. You have to create your own answer. You are going to create your own theory and your own laws and everything. Because that's what I have done. Silicon coating, basic idea. What will be either for preventing deflection or for preventing the sound from coming. So actual answer is sound, but I wrote both. So somehow there will be some somewhere it will be correct. That's it. So this is how this is how you something smart work that you are forced to do. You have no other choice. Otherwise, there will be people who answer all the questions correctly. The problem is these kind of questions. People who are mugging up and can remember facts very well can easily answer. But those people who can't do that one, then we have to make our own answer a little bit. Okay. So the basic recommendation in IPL governing body should be independent of BCCI. Okay, they want it to be outside the BCCI circle. You know about the Srinivasan case and all that stuff. What happened with Srinivasan? What is his son-in-law's name? Mayappan. Huh? Okay. And players' agents should be registered. There is some new, and they should not travel with the players. These are the new provision that has been brought. Employment of players in franchise group companies should be avoided. For example, if Reliance has a company, Mumbai Indians, right? So they want the players to be employed in those companies. They don't want any. I don't know the exact reason for it. Can you guess what will be the reason? What will be the problem if at all they employ players? This is a recommendation that is given. Like just think it like that. Okay, when you see something, think it like I didn't think about this properly. So, but I have to think about it. Because this is how you have to. If you get a term, why it is so? Just make your own answer. If at all you don't get an answer, at least make your own answer. When someone asks me, just write that one. Whether it is right or wrong, that's different. At least you can show something that I have written. And separate law investigating agency and court. Now, something you have to see is that our country doesn't have any proper sport related fraud law center. So this is something. So he has recommended a new law, separate investigating agency, and separate court to deal with. I don't think the separate court and all is going to work. Investigating agency maybe. And I think in the UK they have a separate cricket investigating agencies. Some country has, I don't know. Okay, fine. Then ban post-match parties, because that's the place where they make all the what do you call it? They meet with all these agents. I mean, not agents. The people who bets. What do you call it? Bookies. Bookies. And a list of undesirable elements maintained by BCCI. What do you mean by undesirable elements? Same bookies. Actually, the term was by undesirable. That's why I put it like that. Okay, bookies. No, not just bookies. All the bookies and all the people who fixes match and all those people. So some negative list is there with BCCI. So it should be checked that the players don't meet up with those people in that list. Senior players to advise the younger players. Then he has given Prevention of Sporting Fraud Bill 2013. Since main features are like a person is just it's very vague thing. No, the way it is given is very vague, because I don't understand how they are going to implement this. For example, a person is said to commit the offence that when manipulators are manipulates or tries to manipulate sports result. How can you identify it? Is very difficult. Deliberately misapplies the rules of sport. Maybe that can be punished against in a rule that he has breached the rule of game, but not that he has done some fraud. Okay. Then removes or reduces all or part of the uncertainty of a game. Okay. And willfully that means fixing. This means fixing. And willfully fails to. Yeah. So should I run? Willfully fails to perform his or her true potential. Yeah. Okay. See, don't worry, don't fall. Who is sitting under that? Okay. Willfully fails to perform to his true potential. No one can measure that one. disclose insider information. Okay, fine. That is something is can be tried and cannot be tried by a court inferior to that of metropolitan. So metropolitan magistrate or judicial magistrate of first class. These are the people who will deal with this circuit. And this one is also called as anti-fixing bill. But the problem is that how to check this, if at all it comes to court, how to monitor that one, how to prove that he didn't play up to the mark. There he may be out of form. That's why he is not playing. So that cannot be a reason for. So this bill itself is very big. Okay. Huh? What? What? Tell me. And yeah, and sports jurisdiction in India is at a very nascent stage. I need to educate relevant people. What happened? And nothing in the bill that addresses the unethical activities that could happen accidentally or without intention. Okay. And section 8, offences committed by companies. Ambiguity. The thing is that the ambiguity in the problem in that is that if a company commits some fraud, the bill says that if the company commits some fraud, all the people who are there at the top will be responsible for that one. But if he proves that he doesn't know that he didn't do that willfully, or he didn't know about that one even though he was at the top, then he can be released. Thing is that whoever knows to do fraud, he knows how to keep his name out of it. So these things and all is very, very difficult to check or I mean to prove in court. This article 371D is actually the basic thing. I'll make it short. Basic thing is that in Andhra Pradesh has a special provision where location, I mean area of residence is a condition for employment. They have given special, like they have divided into some zones and all. Okay, so when now since the state is getting split up, I mean getting divided, how to implement that one? How to utilize that? I mean how to distribute that different zones? How to distribute that thing? So basic problem that comes is they want to implement this same, give the provision to both the states. But problem here comes is that they need 2/3 majority to pass to bring constitutional amendment in 371D. But then law ministry told that if they put a condition that condition in 37 clause in the AP reorganization bill, then it will require only simple majority to pass it. That means that if they have to just pass AP reorganization bill, then automatically that provision will link it to 371D. It's nothing actually. So just you should know what Article 371D is this time, because there may be a question from there. And Shyam Petroda report on Prasar Bharati. What is Prasar Bharati? Both All India comes under this one. No? Doordarshan and All India. All the government. That is Doordarshan sound. So what is so it shows the major issue. What will be the issues? Whenever you talk about some government agencies or government company, some basic thing will be there that you can write. For example, professional approach is not there. They are not very good. You can just imagine what it will be. What is professional approach? When you compare it with other cable TVs, other cable channels, other private channels, you can't even compare the standard of Doordarshan or All India Radio. Should they fully keep away from Prasar Bharati, or still there should be some kind of control? Because government will never like to give it up, because it is a mode for their propaganda thing. I mean for election thing they can use it. For their advertisement they use it a lot. And other thing is, then for example, another thing is that they don't want Doordarshan to go completely against a government, an elected government or something like that. Like now CAG can go against a government because it's a very independent body, so they don't want to create one more independent body like that. And media is very powerful. Okay, so there can be these are the very higher level of things that can happen if Doordarshan is left as such. So they want control. So that's the control that has been there for a long time, and that's what is destroying Prasar Bharati. But so they want to make a good relation. I mean, keep a relation in such a manner that it doesn't go against the government. Then financial problems, as usual, you can put in every government organization financial problem. Problem of human resources, their recruitment, their posting, how there will be the rules and regulation will be very strict, and they can't the firing will be very difficult. So there won't be any laxity in working, laziness and all those stuff. You can add unionism and everything will be there. Then lack of infrastructure. You know how the other private companies, other private TVs are working, and they don't have the proper infrastructure to do a better job. So Sam Petrodas, actually he submitted his report on January 2040. That's why you have to remember the important thing. The transfer of asset and HR management to make it administrative and financially autonomous. Yeah, he told that at least make it administratively and financially autonomous, so that they can do their own recruitment, their own way of recruiting it, their own way of firing it, relax the labor contract and all those stuff, and also transfer of all the assets that is government is holding now. And power to frame rules and regulation for own employees, preventing the relaxing labor contract. That's the basic idea. Make people work. How to make the government servants work. And regulator to be set up, accountability. Okay, as usual, regulator, you know, SEBI kind of organization for Doordarshan also. So whenever you talk about privatization or what you call disinvestment, or means whenever you talk about removing one government organization away from government, there will be a regulator post. Okay, and diverse source of funding. Okay, they can even go for. They should be even allowed to take private funding for their programs. Even they can outsource their programs, program timings and all. These things are allowed, and government should waive off amount due from Prasar Bharati. Because government has put a lot of money, so let it go. Don't ask it back. That's what they say. And more should be allocated for content generation. Private sector investment for back-end infrastructure. Content generation means what are programs that is being broadcasted in this one, Doordarshan and for Doordarshan and All India Radio. For content generation, that's something, you know. For usually, you know, for even for BBC and all, they allocate about 70 to 80% of their funding for content generation. That's the kind of amount they pump for creating whatever programs that's presented. But in Doordarshan, it is some 30% or for some 30% only. So that's very low. So they are not putting enough money for making good programs. So that's so you are saying that more money should be allocated for content generation. Okay. And private sector investment for back-end infrastructure development. They can bring private sector for back-end infrastructure, all the infrastructure related stuff they can deal with. Then outsourcing of programs through external producers. Okay. Then should start social media initiative like PB Connect, in promotion of Prasar Bharati through social media. Okay, they can use some system called PB Connect. And manpower audit, draw up optimal organization structure, typical managerial thing. And effective recruitment system. So these are the major recommendations. A critical analysis of that one. He has also told to creating a parliamentary oversight committee, which can lead to political interference. Still lead to political interference. And instead of outsourcing, another criticism is that instead of outsourcing the content creation, actually Prasar Bharati should try to build up their in-house talent. Means, anyway, they are recruiting a lot of people. They have a human resource. Why they want to sell? After that, they want to give it to outsiders. No, they can create. They should make their own in-house people to work for them. And Street Vendors Act 2014. I think most of the people will be knowing this, because it's been in news for last 3-4 years. 3 years. What are the provisions for them? Major provisions. Just guessing what it will be. What is street vendor? Huh? What is street vendor? Yeah, the roadside. I don't know Tamil. Street vendor is okay. So why this law? Why did they bring this policy? Huh? Yeah, whatever you have to say, just tell. Why might have this law? Why this policy? Why they want such a policy? Street vendor side.
Security.
What?
Social security should be the main reason.
Yeah, that's a very broad reason.
Yeah.
Make it comment down.
Constant harassment.
Yeah, that is one thing. One is, as you told, harassment by police, municipal agency, and all those people. Another is protecting their right to livelihood. For example, each and every, whenever, for example, best example I tell you, we have heard lot about money being wasted for Commonwealth Games, lot of corruption case and all that. Something that they didn't come into news, and I think that that's the worst case that has done is that almost each and every place in Delhi, so more than 75% of the vendors were just kicked out of that place. They lost their livelihood, everything. And during the entire this beautification program and the game that was going, they were not allowed to even come inside the Delhi city area. So this is the kind of harassment that is taking place. Then we will ask the question, then how to conduct games like Commonwealth Games, because that requires a lot of space, that requires a lot of, we expect to make the city beautiful. We can't show a poverty-ridden country figure to outsiders. These kind of things will come. So in order to balance this thing, protecting the rights of people to have a proper, to exercise livelihood that they like, that's one thing. And another thing is that along with that, there are a lot of places where street vendors occupy the footpath, which is actually for people to walk. Okay, so it's in a way they are disturbing the traffic and the issues of it. But they don't have a space now. That's why they are occupying. So they give them a proper space, give them a proper facility. Then we can say, then we can what do you call it? We have the right to arrest someone, the people who are occupying footpath. Otherwise, there is no sense in that. That's why so bring that balance. That's the basic idea of this act. And another big issue is with this is that actually I have 4 years back, 2010, I had gone for a conference in Orissa for a street vendor. Actually, I think Orissa is the only state which at least tried to implement this act. Rest of the states have done nothing. So in some places I have seen it is how they have worked. The condition of people after, means how they could dislink the harassment, prevent police from harassing them and all, and how they made beautified their cities and all. Try to not beautify, but at least try to beautify their city. So that is something that is very impressive, and that should be something which all the cities should properly implement. So okay, leave that part. Now we'll come to the background of the act. Okay, so to try to legitimize the livelihood rights of street vendors, and 1980 actually the SC ruled on the constitutional validity of the right of street vendors, and the national policy on urban street vendor 2004, actually it was not legally binding, so no one implemented that. And national policy on urban street vendors 2009 was implemented, which is model street vendors protection of livelihood and regulation of 2009, but states never enacted it. This is the one actually Orissa enacted. Okay, this is the one that I have seen that Orissa has enacted. 2009 it came. They asked all the government to implement that, but no one did nothing. But few states, like one exception was Orissa, and that's why they have put now Street Vendors Act 2040 to pressurize people to impose it on every state to compulsorily implement it. So salient features of the act is like you have to set up a town vending committee. In that one, there will be each local authority will be headed by municipal commissioner or chief executive officer, and they will have some 10% of people from NGOs and 40% of people from street vending community. Okay, so that's a combo. That's some the kind of composition there. I don't know the exact composition. You don't have to know the exact composition, but you got to just know what all communities are there. Like NGOs are involved, and also street vending communities also involved in this committee. Then street vendors survey. The town vending committee will conduct the carry out the survey. In at least 5 years they will do it and issue a certificate of vending licensed by the town vending committee. Okay, they will do a proper survey within 5 years. After that they are supposed to give license to people, and they are even they are asked to provide an ID card. That's what I was saying. They are given ID card, and and only licensed people will be allowed to do vending. Then vending zones has to be a maximum of 2.5% of the total population of the ward or town, or actually that is like only 2.5% of the total population. Maximum of 2.5% of the total population will be given license. Okay, that is that clause. And first they will set up the vending zone. And totally the vending zones will be such that it will occupy only maximum 2.5% of the what you call of the total population of a ward. And no eviction in case of death of a street vendor. Okay, if a person gets a license, now even if that person dies, he can give it to what you call his family members. Still he won't be evicted from that place. And procedure for relocation, eviction and confiscation of goods. If there is some emergency comes for relocating or for eviction, then the vendors will be also involved with this activity. They will be involved in planning and implementation of their rehabilitation. That's one thing. And also for if some property, some goods has been confiscated from them, then actually there is a time within 2 days they have to be inquired, and if there is no case against them, then it has to be given back within 2 days or 3 days something. Earlier that was not the case. Okay, from natural markets they won't be relocated at all. They have natural market is some place where they have been doing business for almost 50 years, and they have also given definition for national market this in the law. Okay, so they have some markets have been prescribed as national markets. There is a proper definition for that. That means that tomorrow the municipal committee corporation can come and say that yeah, this is not national market, because there is a provision. It's not arbitrarily decided. There is a proper definition that is given. Then concept of natural market, yeah, that's what I told. And grievance redressal mechanism, and the retired judicial officer will be the head of that one. The protection from harassment and duty of the street vendors. Some duty has been given to the street vendors also, like maintenance of cleanliness and public hygiene, maintenance of civic amenities in the vending zone in good condition, and payment of maintenance charges. They are charged with maintenance charge. Okay. Act makes it mandatory for the rules to be notified within 1 year and its commencement, 1 year of its commencement, and scheme to be notified within 6 months of its commencement. Okay. Okay, so what do you think will be the major, what way they can do some corruption in this one, from this provision? Issuing the license, yeah. Maintenance charges still it will be fixed. Another thing that they do is the location where you are getting license. Some area will be very profitable one, and the others will be not at all profitable. So here they don't have the option to go wherever they want. There will be vending zones, and they will have to do their vending in those zones. So if you get a prime area, you can make good profit. If it's not, it's very difficult. Okay. I think most of the people are sleeping, so we'll write one exam now. I mean, exam means one question. Okay. So I think that will relax. Break only 2 hours class, that you don't need break for 2 hours class. So this committee was set up in February 2012, So recent only he submitted his report only recently. It was a 40-member high-level committee. There's nothing, very few provisions. But when you have a named committee, you should know what were the provisions, because there is a chance for asking that. Okay. So recommendations were like formulate a national policy and action plan to end violence against women. Very general thing. And supported the passage of women's reservation bill and asked for 50% reservation instead of 33. 33 is not enough. What is the percentage reservation in Panchayat election? Still 30 here. Still 33 here. 50, right? No, what is the reservation given for women? Only 33%. Okay. They passed it. Okay. No, actually, if my memory is, I think they have passed a bill to make it 50%. And before that one, lot of states have made 50%. One of them is Kerala, because last Panchayat election it was 50%. That's why I remember it properly. And in Gujarat also it was 50% in last Panchayat election. 50%. 50%. Yeah. Yeah, Kerala last election was 50%. They haven't given. So you should ask for that. Huh? Or just continue. What? No problem. Okay, I didn't get you. Sorry. Okay. So he is asking for 50% reservation in a women's reservation bill. Okay, bill. You know why? What is the reason for asking this 33%, not 50% in most of the bills? Even in Panchayat election, it was 33. Actually, this is a discussion that came in. We were taking a seminar, not seminar. It was a class for by FSF movement, Free Software Foundation thing. At that time, we had a discussion group of women, all the girls. At that time, someone asked me this question: why 33 and not 50? Anyone has that answer? Just try to find it. Okay, at least for me. Well, I couldn't get a good response for that. One response that I got is from other people with whom I have discussed it. One response I got is it's just an initial stage. First you make it 33, then you go for 50. First when you making it 33, you will try to build maximum women's force who can go for. Problem is that if at all you directly make 50 means, you won't get enough people to contest these seats and all. That is should. So first you make a system where you build up a group of people who are very active in politics, promote politics among women. After that you can go for 50. This is one and justification that I was given for this 33%. But I don't know. I don't know whether there is some other reason for that one. Just try to find it. Just for your sake. Just try to find it. Don't worry. UPSC won't ask such a tough question. Separate committee and status of Muslim women. A separate committee has to set up for improving the status of Muslim committee. Then Minister of Women and Child Development should be upgraded as a rank of cabinet minister. Should be given more power. Ministry of Child and Women and Child Welfare. And Parliamentary Committee on the Empowerment of Women must examine the gender implication of proposed legislation bill. Okay, what do you mean by gender implication of bills? Gender implication, what is that? You must examine the gender implication of all proposed legislation. What is there to this thing, gender implication? When you pass any kind of bill, how it affects women? Have you heard the term gender budgeting? You might have heard, because public administration you study. You haven't heard about gender budgeting? Gender budgeting. I don't know what to say. Gender budgeting means it's a system where you check how much money has been allocated for women's cause. Okay, it's not done separately. It's done by an organization. Only they do it, and it's not taken very seriously. That's the truth. But if you look at gender budgeting, I think the allocation is very less. Maybe from last time onwards, for Nirbhaya Fund, they are giving 1,000 crores thing. That might have improved it, but that is nothing. That means almost 40. What is the percentage of women's population in our country? 44%. What is the percentage composition of men, women? Percentage composition of population? Huh? 40? 44 something. I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Okay, we can take some 40. Not 50. Not above 50% because our this sex ratio is only 940. It won't be above 50%. So some 44% of the population is allocated only not even 30% of the total budget. So that is a big discrimination. So that's what gender budgeting tries to imply. They try to imply that only 44% only are given this much, and 55% is given more than 70% of the budget. In the same manner, how each and every bill, for example, if you are passing some sports bill, how it affects women sports person. If you are passing any kind of bill, how it affects gender related issue. That need to be checked. The National Commission for Women should be more proactive in influencing policy formulation. Same, they should take up the job of influencing policy formulation. The major changes in the criminal justice system, more gender sensitive enforcement machinery to greater revisit the two-child norms as it is related to missing girl. What is missing girl? Missing girl. I think I wrote this. What do you mean by missing girl? Children. Huh? Forced?
Forced labor.
No. Huh? No. And missing girl is actually, our sex ratio, what is the sex ratio? 940 is 2. That means we are lesser than the sex ratio. Okay, but actually naturally it should be a particular level, but we are only here. That means what happened to these girls? Okay. That's the question comes. This is a term. Actually, there are two terms of this. This is the one which Amartya Sen wrote. I think Amartya Sen wrote this justification. This missing girl is also used in another perspective, in labor related thing that I don't remember properly. This is something Amartya Sen wrote. This is one perspective, and that's where 1 billion rising and movement was there. You don't know anything about women's movement, bro. Huh? You haven't heard about missing girl thing. You haven't heard about 1 billion rising. Nothing. Okay. So that is why two child norm is affecting missing girl. Okay, leading to missing girl children. What was the recommendation during the last? What was the finding during the last census about reducing sex ratio, especially child sex ratio? You should have a good analysis about, at least read the 2011 Yojana book is there. They have given very good analysis. Read that one. Find the population, the Yojana issue which deals with census. Read it. I am not going to tell the answer. You find all the analysis regarding census, okay? Because that is very important. What? Okay, and initiate dialogues with Hindu religious denomination and include daughters in rituals and practice. That's something new that I have found for the first time. Okay, what does it mean? Because even if you look at, even after that Delhi gang rape issue, even lot of debates have been happening in all the media. No one touched religion still. Okay, all the kind of activities that are taking place, even religious rituals which discriminate women in a lot of cases, they haven't. It hasn't been discussed properly anywhere. And marital and sexual choices should be protected through amendments to IPC section 377. Okay, that's. I think you understand what it is. What? You want to wind up? That's one topic. This one I'll finish it. There's nothing. GM crops. You know what is GM crops? General manager. What is genetically modified crops? Huh? No, leave that one. What is genetically modified crops? Unnatural. What is
Changing the genetic pattern
for
for any particular crop
for
by incorporating
not just to improve its productivity, resistance. Yeah, this is look, when you talk about agriculture, everything yield, productivity, these kind of terms put here and there. Yeah. Yeah, resistance is one of the characteristics. It is, yeah. Okay, so the major issue. Look, I mean, if you look at GK today, now get the GK today soft copy. Okay, GK today soft copy. Read this slide along with GK today. Any doubts, you try to clear it or come to me. And another thing is, at the end, or just go through this one. And I'm not finishing it today. There's more to come, a little bit more. And after that, I'll give this slide to you people. You can take it. Okay, so what are the major issues related to GM crops? Okay, so weeds, biodiversity, non-targets, and soil health, and effect on environment. And these are the major issues. The issues which hasn't been dealt till now properly. That effects on environment and wildlife. How it will affect the environment. Use of GM crops. How it will affect the environment and how it will affect the wildlife. And will it affect non-target insect? For example, there are genetic crops which targets particular insect, but there will be other useful insects will be there. That also will get killed. So these are the things that is happening now. Then super weeds. And there are I don't know what is exactly super weed is. What is that one? Unwanted plant species. Weeds means unwanted. That I know. What is super weeds technology? Is it attacking weeds or is it okay, just I will check that one and tell you. Okay, sorry. Okay, sorry. And the farmers' dependence on biotech companies. It's another problem that they face, and the biodiversity, soil, that will come when during Terminator series. I will explain how farmers get dependent on biotech companies, and biodiversity, how it affects biodiversity, soil. So whenever you think about plan to criticize about GM crops, these things you have to keep in mind. Then start out a question. Okay, how it affects biodiversity, how it affects soil health, how it affects. These are the questions that is coming. So since these things are not answered, so GM crops cannot be introduced completely into our system. And human health, how it affects human health, new proteins in animal and human food chain, it gets introduced, and new genes can be resistant to antibiotics and all. So its effect has to be analyzed first before using it. In some countries, what they have done is there's a system called labeling it, that you have to label that it's a GM crop, and some other thing, the organic one you can sell it as such. That's what that's the provision that is given. Like if you are labeling it, then you can sell it. But the thing is that then no one will do that one. That's what is happening. The countries which has allowed GM crops by labeling, they can sell the products by labeling it as a GM crop. Then customers can choose whether I should go for GM crop one or the normal one. The problem is that customers are afraid of going for GM crops. So what they do is they go for the old one. So this business get affected. Otherwise, what happens is that they will just mix with everything, GM crops and the normal crop. Then it's your luck. Then what you get depends. Okay, then Terminator seeds. Genetic use restriction technology, GURT. You can check what that is. I didn't check it properly. And produce the Terminator seeds, which makes crops die off after one harvest without producing offspring. This would force the farmers to buy new seeds. Understand? This is how they get dependent upon the biodiversity. Every time, you know the system called grain banking. Don't tell me you don't know about grain banking. Grain banking. No? Grain banking. Banking. Just try to guess what will be grain banking. Yeah. Huh? Grain, Grain. That's the spelling. Grains. Or seed banking. It will be called as seed banking also. Huh? Yeah. Good. Yeah, that's it. What usually is practiced in farm people who are coming from farmers community will be very knowing it. They use this year's crops as a seed for next year. So that's what get affected in this terminator seeds. Okay, that kind of thing they can't do, and there are other provisions are also there. They can't preserve seeds. That will get it will die after for the first harvest itself. Okay, so that's how the farmers have a insurance system, the inbuilt insurance system. They will store it, use it for next time. But if this thing comes, every time they will have to go and buy it from the companies. In this one in Madhya Pradesh and all, I have seen that if you take one sack of this one seeds from moneylender, you have to give almost five sacks of your produce for them. That is the way they loan it. That's how costly the seeds are. In here also, I think there will be some system like that. I don't know. Lending borrowing seeds. Okay, leave it. Then regulatory frameworks in India. Actually, it's just a name of all the organizations. Everything that's required. Environment Protection Act is there, and GES, Genetic Engineering Approval Committee is there. Established in 1989, it is the apex body for environment clearance of transgenic crops. They are the one who clears a crop for whether a GM crop can be used or not. The biosafety regulatory framework is there. Then the structure of various competent bodies under framework. And look, this thing you can just go through. There's nothing. It's just name of all the organizations and institutions that is coming. Don't by heart anything from this slide. You just read it 2 or 3 times. Whatever you remember, that's all is required. Okay, that's all is required. Don't try to by heart all the things. Then how a GM crop is released in India? First, RCGM is there. One second, I don't exactly remember that full form of RCGM. Everyone? Okay. Review committee on genetic manipulation. Sorry. Okay, so they assess then decide on the application to test a GM crop. Okay, that's the first stage. Then after RCGM clears it, then they'll give to GESA and consider the application for field trial. Okay, then MEC is there, which is monitoring and evaluation committee. Okay, they will monitor how the results are, the field trial results. Then they will give a positive report. From that one, GESA clears it. That's all. It's not big. Then ministry goes for it. Whatever. Okay, so just give it. It's not very important. No? RCGM is there. They are the one who introduced it. They clears application, give it to GESA. Then GESA introduced it for field trial. MEC will be the monitoring and evaluation committee. They will give the final result. They will give a positive report. If they give the positive report, then they can go for releasing. Okay, this is the basic structure. This is not very important. Just if you can able to remember means you can utilize in some question. That's all. The National Biological Diversity Act is there and deals with the possible risk associated with application of modern biotechnology. That's the main agenda. National Biodiversity Authority. Look, try to just find the major, there at least 2 or 3 points regarding what they do. That is enough for us. Okay. If some question comes, this body which does dash. That's it. That's all we have to remember. Don't try to remember too much. We need small stuff which we can utilize here and there. National Biodiversity Authority is there, which is the apex body. Then they have put some condition like how foreign nationals require approval from NBA for obtaining biological resources and all. And all Indian individuals entities are required to seek NBA approval before transferring knowledge. Applying for any kind of IPR, it's in intellectual property rights, they should get permission from NBA. A state level biodiversity board will be there at the state level. And Biological Regulatory Authority Bill 2030 give easy access. Actually, in Regulatory Authority Bill 2030, they have made it GM crops easily accessible. Just go through that bill properly. Okay, I didn't get time. I just now made this slide, so I didn't get time to go through that. That's your task to do. Okay, just go through that bill. There is no much big provision in all, but just know 2-3 more things. One thing is that it makes the introduction of GM crops more easier. Okay, then you can talk about, you know, the news about this one, BT cotton and all, what happened in Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra. No, I think lots of news came the year before, 2011. BP Sainath and all, I think he has written a lot of articles. You know Sainath? Sainath, you know, right? He has written a lot of articles regarding GM crops, cotton in Maharashtra, in Hindu, criticizing Times of India because they promoted it a lot. Okay, just if possible, just go through that one. Then you can get something to criticize. Okay, and this is till the state level biodiversity board. Then there is at the grassroots level, in each villages are supposed to make biodiversity boards like this, and they are the one who gives the if at all some something has to be introduced, any technology needs to be introduced, their permission is required. And just check what is there in your state also, in Tamil Nadu. In Kerala, I know that there is one biodiversity board is there. Kerala biodiversity board something is there. They give each and everything. They give. So we have to take permission from them to introduce any new technologies and all. In environment related stuff, there will be proper election and all those stuff will be. Just check what is happening in Tamil Nadu. Okay. Yes. Yeah, we'll go this one. Do next time because that's very lengthy.